Okay, folks, we're going to get, sorry about that, I probably surprised some people, especially ones in the front, so we're going to get going here, okay? The folks at the back, if you want, there's still a few chairs open up front if you want to find them. If not, you're more than welcome to stand back there. And we've got a long evening in front of us, and so let's everybody get comfortable. We'll take a break at some point in between if we think we need it, and we'll see where it leads us. So just let everybody know. I know that we're going to start off with a bit of it's not a statement, but it's a bit of information that's posted on our website with respect to how we got here. So then we'll get into the meeting. So some of you may have seen it. I apologize if I sound long-winded with it, but I'll try and get through it as efficiently as possible. Okay? So, how we got here, background information. I was going to do that now. Okay? How would we do it? Would you feel better if we do it as part of the meeting? Okay. I just got told by my boss that we're going to do this. We'll call the meeting to order first. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Town of Greater Napanee Special Session of Council for the May 11th, 2023. I just want to remind everybody that even though we're not live streaming the meeting tonight, it will be recorded and be put on our YouTube channel in the very near future. And that any of the comments, we're here to listen tonight, and that's the big thing. This is a public meeting, and we're here to listen, and we're here to obtain as much information about this as possible. So, and that's what we're going to do, and I'm encouraged to see the crowd that we have out here tonight. So, having said that, we'll call the meeting order. I'll look for a motion for the adoption of the agenda as presented. Moved by Councilor Shank, seconded by Councilor Hicks. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? That motion is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, items for discussion, public comments. So just before that, before we get into the public comments, and we do have a list, and as usual, I'll probably adjust this as we get going here. But I'd just like to read out a statement as to how we got here. Again, this information has been posted on our website, but I think it's important that the folks that haven't seen it or haven't had an opportunity to read it just to hear it. So we'll start off with what is the property in question. The parcel that has been declared surplus is legally described as Part Lot 25-29, Concession 1, former Township of Richmond, Parts 4, 5, 6, and 7, Registered Plan 29R9996, lying north of Highway 401, constitutes a portion of the former CN spur line running from the north side of 401 Highway to the eastern municipal border. Why is the municipality considering this action at this time, and how did we get to this meeting? On the 13th of February 2023, the town received an unsolicited offer to purchase the subject property, which was not on the surplus lands list. The sale of land bylaw, which is 2022-0009, sets out a process for unsolicited offers to purchase land that has already been declared surplus, and for town staff to proactively identify lands that could be declared surplus, but does not speak to this exact scenario. Therefore, the following steps have been taken. On the 16th of March 2023, the Community Development Team reviewed the offer against established policy and anticipated future land needs and prepared a recommendation to Council regarding the offer. On March 28, 2023, a report from the Community Development Team and the offer were presented to Council in closed session. Per the sale of land bylaw, offers and negotiations with respect to land transactions are to be presented in closed session as permitted under Section 239 of the Municipal Act. However, Council must make any decisions regarding the disposition of land in an open meeting. Coming out of closed session on March 28, 2023, Council passed a motion to declare the subject property surplus in order to allow Council to consider an offer to purchase the land. In accordance with the town's public notice policy bylaw and Section 9D of the sale of land bylaw, following Council's motion on March 28, public notice was issued advertising to the public that the land had been declared surplus and inviting comments on the subject. Staff anticipated a high level of public interest, and they were right, in the property, given recent public deputations, so identified a specific meeting at which all comments would be heard. This was originally scheduled to be held within the regular session of Council on May 9th, allowing a 4-week notice period. But based on the volume of the feedback, it was moved to a special meeting on May 11th to allow for a larger venue and longer time allocation. So what is the history of the subject property? The Napanee Tamworth Quebec line was one of many smaller independent rail lines that grew up in the area during the late 1800s and early 1900s. These lines were consolidated under the Canadian National Railway, gradually decommissioned as use decreased through the later 1900s. From the Book of Lennox and Adjourn Meeting states, leading citizens met at Napanee Town Hall in 1879 to discuss the construction of the railway. The first phase would pass through the Napanee River Valley, starting at Napanee and running along the north bank of the river through Napanee Mills, Strathcona, Newburgh, Clark's Mills, Cantonese, Yarker, and Coldbrook, then swinging north through Moscow and Enterprise to Tamworth. The line would link these villages to Napanee and inspire increased industrial use of water power on the river. So, when did the town acquire the subject property, at what cost, and for what purpose? The title of this property passed from the Canadian National Railway Company to the town of Greater Napanee on September 5th, 2012. The transfer was conducted as a gift, with the cost of the land transfer being zero. However, the town did incur additional expenses to acquire the land. The spur line to Goodyear was closed by CN in 2009. In May of 2010, town staff were approached by CN Rail to see if the town would be interested in acquiring some or all of the property within the municipal boundaries. Due to the election timing, this matter was first presented to council at the December 10th, 2010 meeting with a staff report seeking authority to negotiate the acquisition of a portion of the CN spur line from Camden East to the municipal boundary to a maximum value of $50,000. A motion to this effect was passed at that meeting. The staff report indicated that this potential acquisition was seen as a valuable addition as linear parkland, likely as an addition to the Cataract Trail. Additional negotiations happened between the town and CN. The next motion on this topic was passed May 10th, 2011. Coming out of the closed session meeting, stating that council approved the purchase of the entire spur line property within the municipality running to Goodyear, not just a portion east of Camden East Road, for $50,000 plus a tax receipt for the remainder of the assessed values. There are no further council reports at this point, but the sale agreement shows that CN donated the entire value of the land in exchange for the town taking on the costs associated with the transfer. These include the survey costs, appraisal, and legal costs for a total of $44,641.21. What consideration has been given to the scrap metal left on the subject property? The potential scrap value of the rail tracks has been discussed informally a number of times as a way of helping to fund future upgrades of the railhead to a trail, but has not been included in the official staff report. There was a correction made on May 8, 2023, a staff report on May 25th noted the potential sale value of scrap metal of $150,000 less costs for removal, which were unknown. A motion was passed by council authorizing an RFP for the removal of all the rail-related iron on the town-owned portions, with any surplus funds to be placed in the facilities reserve account. The resolution did not specify a project for the funds, only the broader category of facilities. Due to the timing of the report and the senior staff turnover, around that time, this project did not proceed. Most recently, it was noted in the February 14th deputation to council that the development of the urban portion of the spur line as a trail could partially be funded this way. Should an agreement of sale be pursued, the town would be guided by the principle of section 9G of the sale of land bylaw, that as a general principle, no offer or purchase accepted shall be less than the cost to the town to convey the property, and this would be inferred to apply to any net potential value the town currently holds for the removal and sale of these tracks. What is the town's plan for the rail development? The trail development and active transportation were identified in the Recreation Master Plan as community priorities. This document is used to guide council decisions and future planning directions, but is not a binding, as council must also consider budgets, staffing, operating costs, competing needs, and other factors when making their decisions. The concept plan for an urban trail loop that incorporates the portions of the CN spur line from Berry Avenue to Camden Road has been developed internally and is proposed as a current focused area for trail development in Greater Napanee. The town is only able to influence trail development within its own boundaries and cannot control or comment on potential future trails in other municipalities. So what happens next? The town's normal meeting procedures are that unless a matter is urgent and time-sensitive, council will not make a decision immediately following public presentations on the matter. Instead, council may request additional staff research to consider the matter again at a public meeting after having time to reflect on the public input that has been provided. After considering the information raised at this meeting, council may continue negotiations to determine the terms and conditions under which it would consider selling some or all of the property in question. By 2/3 majority, reconsider the motion to declare the land a surplus or defer a decision to a future date. And I apologize if I rushed through that, but that information is all on our website, and it is available anyway that can access the town of Napanee website. Having said that, this evening's meeting is for us as a council and staff to obtain as much information with respect to this decision that will be made as we can. We have obtained a whole pile of information. I've spent the last 3 or 4 days trying to get caught up on it, and there's still stuff I haven't read yet. So, and I expect that this evening will reveal even more information. So, that's what tonight's intention is to obtain as much information as possible and to make as informed decision as possible with respect to this as possible. I just want to remind folks that we have a good community here, and we have good people, and they want to do what's best. And I think we have to take into consideration all the community here, and I think we will. And I think what you're going to hear tonight is that we have a community built on trust. We have a community built on hardworking people that just want the best for the town of Greater Napanee. So, having said that, I'm going to quit talking. We're going to listen to a whole bunch of other people talk. So,
excuse me, if maybe you intended on this, but perhaps each of you could introduce yourselves, what wards you represent, etc. There's a lot of us in the town, and that would be appreciated.
I'm more than welcome to do that. I just assume that having just come off a recent municipal election, that maybe everybody knew that. Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll start with myself. My name is Terry Richardson. I'm the mayor of Greater Napanee. Sitting next to me over here is Brian Calvert. He's the deputy mayor of Greater Napanee. Sitting next to him is Ward 5 Councillor Bill Martin. Sitting next to Bill is Bob Norrie, who is the Ward 4 council member. And over on my left, I have Dave Canal, which is the Ward 3 council member. I have Angela Hicks, which is the Ward 2 council member. And at the far end, I have Mike Shan, which is the Ward 1 council member. My God, I've known Mike forever, and it kind of gets stuck in his name. Sitting to my immediate left, we have Jessica Walters, who is the clerk for the town of Greater Napanee, and to my immediate right, we have John Vincent, who is the CAO of the town of Greater Napanee. So, and I apologize, maybe I just assumed that everybody knows who we are. So, in any event, we're going to get started. 4.1 on the agenda is council to hear public comments regarding the declaration of surplus lot 25 and 29, concession 1, former township of Richmond. Parks lots 4, 5, and 6, 7, registered plan. 29R 9996, line north of Highway 401, being the former rail line. I can tell you folks, so this evening's process is that we're going to allow, and this is part of our procedural bylaws, about 10 minutes per deputation. We've got, and that's on registered deputations, we have 22 people that want to speak here tonight. So we're going to stick pretty close to the 10 minutes. Sometimes I get a little willy-nilly with my time, but that won't happen tonight. So we've also been able to, we put a sheet at the back. We have what's called unregistered deputations, and unfortunately, we do have some people that want to speak as well, but those members won't have an opportunity to speak only for 3 minutes. And again, we're going to stay right on our timelines as well. So, having said that, I guess we can start. Can we not? That's good. I'm going to throw a little bit of a kink into the program here tonight, and I think who we would like to start with is Mr. Tom Tussell. I know Tom is here somewhere. Yeah, here he comes. Welcome, Tom.
Try talking.
Is this on?
Yes.
My name is Tom Tussell. I'm not sure if I'm addressing you guys, or you, so I'm just going to try and work back and forth here. I'm a member of the Active Transportation Alliance and our allies, and I have zero authority here. I'm a citizen trying to promote some active trails. Tonight, I'm going to keep this short. I'm going to start with a plea for civility and respectful language. Emotions are high, and I understand that, and my emotions get high too. I don't read social media, but I understand there's some interesting words out there. And I really don't think there are any bad people in this unfolding story, and this is a very human story. I started this process, or I feel like I kind of kindled it a little bit, about a year ago, when the Recreation Master Plan was kindled. I thought it was an opportunity to develop the rail connection from Napanee to Strathcona. And I reached out to some friends, and we formed a small group, and we encouraged people to make submissions to the rec plan. And that happened. And the idea of the trail was included in the Recreation Master Plan. And I must say, sometimes when I get an idea in my head, I get pretty caught up in it. So then Dave Milligan, who is a dairy farmer just outside town, he and I talked, and I talked to his dad as well. And I must say, we both said some things that we now regret. And I don't think either of us made enough effort to understand the other. So I have an apology to Dave, because I now know Dave is in a different way. I saw him as an opponent, and he is not. He's a good father, he's a good farmer, and he saw his business threatened by the thing that I was proposing. And over time, our camps entrenched a little bit, the rhetoric heightened, and we didn't make an effort to understand each other. And when the land was declared surplus, 2 weeks after I made a presentation to the council, I really saw that as a threat. And but ultimately, it took some cool heads and smarter people to see solutions where other people, including me, saw barriers. Our goal is to develop a trail, to develop a whole series of trails so that people can get around our town without a vehicle, go places in and out of town, and go about their daily lives on their feet, on their bikes, or behind their strollers. And the other goal is to create a trail from Napanee to connect to the Cat Trail at Strathcona. And for reasons that I now clearly understand after talking to Dave Milligan and doing more listening, I now understand that trail is possible, but probably not possible on the route that I initially saw. And a few days ago, my wife Liz, a cooler, smarter head, and Dave Milligan had a really good discussion, and this followed previous discussions between Dave and Mike Sewell, and Dave and the very kind Jim Peets from our trail group. And ultimately, Dave has proposed an alternative route that is exciting and workable, and doesn't go right by his barn. And my pledge is to work with the landowners and the farming community to make this happen. I think it's completely possible, and it doesn't necessarily follow the original route that I thought, but it's going to get us ultimately to Strathcona, and it's going to take some time. And finally, I'll just say it's one of the great human experiences to go along a journey, and on that journey, an opponent becomes a friend and an ally, and I think Dave and I have made that journey together. And from those discussions, I think we have a really good chance to build a trail and a series of trails that Napanee can be quite proud of. And we now really look to our political leaders to facilitate and lead and make this happen. I think we'll start with working on the in-town trails, And there'll be lots of stuff in the coming months about what that might look like, and we're gonna put boots on the ground, and we're gonna hike and walk and see if we can figure out good places to go. And then we're gonna work on the route from Napanee out to Strathcona. I don't think I'm 100% in favor of finding an alternative route, and there are a whole bunch of them. And there are some routes there that already exist that people are using. And our goal is to make some really nice trails, safe trails for kids that are not beside roads, places where people don't get run over, and make our town a better place. And this is, I think, something that people want. Are we going to invite Dave up here, or what would you like to do?
Yep, Dave, I'm gonna invite Dave up next whenever you're done there.
Okay.
Just to let you know, you got another 4 minutes if you want.
I can talk for an hour about nothing, but I won't. So there's 6 minutes. The rest is yours.
Thank you, Tom. Very, very, very well received and well thought out words. Next, we'll have Dave Milligan. I believe Dave's here too as well. So come on up, Dave.
Good evening, members of the Greater Napanee Council, town staff, and members of our community. I'd like to, thank Tom for some of his kind words, and also express an apology to Tom, as the way that this whole thing started was Tom had a vision, and I had a different vision, and that was for our family and our farm. We didn't see eye to eye at first, and for obvious reasons. And I think as time goes on here, I think we found out that we have a lot of common goals and a lot of respect for each other. So I have a lot of things wrote out here. I've got probably 15 minutes of things to say, but I really don't know whether it's really all that necessary. I guess I'd like to thank you for your time to listen to everyone here tonight. I'm not going to go through all of this, but our family, we own and operate Mill Spring Farms. We're in the 4th generation of producing milk and crops for local consumption. While still young, the 5th generation, it shares the same passion for agriculture as we do. As farmers, we produce the food that people require to feed their families. Our families are stewards of the land. We use no-till, reduced tillage, and our efforts in soil conservation. We invest money into technology to decrease our carbon footprint and be as efficient as we can be. Our milk marketing board is committed to being net zero for carbon emissions by 2050. We quite honestly strive to be better each and every day at what we do. Agriculture is Lennox and Aggie's biggest industry, which I'm proud to say we're an integral part of. Our family farmers recognized through quality certificates and management awards as we try to produce the highest quality product for the people who rely on it. Canada's huge land mass only has 4.26% arable land available to produce food for a growing population. With recent changes to the greenbelt areas, it's becoming more critical to conserve farmland and the farms themselves, as we are losing both at a rapid rate. Ontario is reportedly losing 319 acres of farmland each and every day as a result of urban sprawl and many other factors. The average age of the Canadian farmer is 58 years old. This is a huge problem. We all want local, high-quality food for our families. We need to protect farms. Forcing farms into production will only increase our reliance on other countries to satisfy our country's growing population food needs. These other countries don't always have the same same thoughts on reducing their carbon for the benefit of future generations. And quite honestly, without food, we all have no future. So I'm not here tonight to debate active living, physical activity. We all need to be as active as we can be in many different ways. I'm only here speaking on behalf of our family farm and our agricultural industry that we very need to preserve. There are solutions for trails and recreational spaces that do not need to involve diminishing two local multi-generational farmers. I'm open to working with the other stakeholders and developing and seeing these projects through, as they are all in our best interests. Our issue with the trail running directly through our farm operation is very simple. It will just not work. As I've said many times before, the distances to our buildings, which house animals, our animals' feed, supplements, and the necessary equipment is very close. I've included a detailed sketch to council, and we already deal with various levels of trespassing, vandalism, thefts, and fire as a result of our close proximity to town. This abandoned rail line running through our farm is a big part of that. A trail will only be an easier access point for all types of negative activity that will endanger our animals, our family, and our staff. We're self-employed. We milk our cows 3 times a day. If one of us cannot accomplish our daily chores as a result of any conflicts, I don't think the Napanee staff wants to come milk our cows and plant or harvest our crops. The liability is huge, and I completely understand both sides of this argument. I think that there's lots of solutions that we can work towards that don't have to have negative impacts for the community or the businesses that really need their security. So, I guess to summarize, there are solutions that can work for everyone involved. The town of Greater Napanee, the active transportation allies, the property owners, the businesses. The first step in all this was severely overlooked, and that was communication. Me and Tom both touched on this. Since then, I believe we've made great strides to move forward here as a group, and I think we can really accomplish something. Let's all come together as a community, communicate with each other, stop this online misinformation.
Yes.
And let's work towards an end goal that we can all be proud of and enjoy for generations to come. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Dave. Very, very honorable and knowledgeable words there, and we really appreciate it. We're going to get back onto the schedule here. Next on our list, we have Leanna Green. Is Leanna here tonight? Is Eric DePole? Yep, there's Eric. Come on up, Eric.
Good evening, and thanks very much, Your Worship and members of Council, for this opportunity to speak on this issue. I think my remarks are going to be a little different than I planned and that I've written, but I still support the efforts of turning this piece of land, or the equivalent, into a multi-use trail. It's an essential part of the overall plan to connect Napanee and Cataract Trail, and I think that certainly my opinion of it, and the opinion of many people that I've talked to in this town, is that that should happen. So this would create many benefits for Napanee, including some excellent economic benefits, and I can speak to those from personal experience because I had a business in Yarker when the trail passed through, and I've operated a restaurant there for 17 years, and I had many customers come into my restaurant from the trail. Cycling clubs would come in, make Yarmouth their lunch stop, and or their destination while they were touring the trail. So on those days, I would have a full dining room instead of perhaps what would have been a slow day turned into an excellent day. There were also hiking groups that would come, as well as individuals that were hiking the trail. I remember one in particular that came all the way from Yellowknife to walk the trail. She researched online, she found this trail, wanted to walk it. She figured out her route, including all the stops on the way, and my restaurant was her stop for lunch one day. So she came in, she had lunch, and she told me all about her travels. She was really an interesting person, so she stuck in my mind. And I'm not the only business person that benefits from the trail. Certainly, the Stone Corner, I talked to Micheline Smith there. She gets a lot of business from the trail. She tells me that she's so really surprised by the number of people who use the trail and who come in to her business for lunch. The Abrams Bakery, I talked to Donna Abrams, and she told me that 15 to 20% of their summer business comes from the trail. So anybody who knows the economics of a small business knows that you have fixed costs, you have variable costs, and all of these have to be paid before you make any money at all, before you have any profit. So 15 to 20% of your business, that could be 100% of your profit right there, because your costs have to be covered first, of course. So many towns along the trail benefit in this way, and these benefits could accrue to Napanee. And I don't think we should pass those up. Napanee could be determinants of the trail in this area. This would bring many substantial economic benefits by bringing outdoors people, bicyclists, hikers, snowmobilers to Napanee. This would increase our motel and restaurant business, as well as increasing customer traffic in our stores year-round. So based on this alone, I think council has to turn its mind to this piece of land. And I think the first thing that council should do is take a step back. They should not sell this piece of land. They should take it off the surplus list and reconsider in light of all the facts. So I think that council made a decision in the direction of building the rail trail when they endorsed, not just passed, but endorsed the recreation master plan. So the word endorse means to declare one's public approval or support of, according to the Oxford Dictionary, and I think that's what council did. So they approve and support of the recreation master plan, and so that they approve and support the idea to study the feasibility and build a multi-use trail, which is one of the recommendations. So the same resolution that endorsed the Recreation Master Plan said that council refers the Recreation Master Plan to the Recreation Advisory Committee as a guiding document. So it seems to be a contradiction that a document that's guiding the Recreation Advisory Committee, one of the things that what the document that it's guiding is guiding the committee to establish and build the trail. And then the same council lists the land that's essential to that trail as surplus and wants to consider an offer to buy it. So I think that approach is contradictory. Now, as you said, Your Worship, this is not, the plan is not binding, but I think the direction is set. And I think that council would be well advised to continue in the direction that the Recreation Master Plan suggests. So I think that rather than go through with this consideration, I think council should take a step back. I think that the action of declaring the land as surplus caused the whole issue to become inflamed. And I think we need to approach this more calmly once council has taken the sale of these lands off the table. I think there are solutions to be had, as there are solutions that have been had all along the Kakaraki Trail. This is not the only place where the trail crosses a farm. That's far from it. The trail crosses farms in many places, and other landowners' land as well. And these problems have been solved, and the trail, I mean, to create the trail to exist at all, they had to solve these problems many times in many places. So there are solutions to these problems. These solutions work if we look for them and we find them. So I think we definitely, this trail would definitely be a terrific asset, both economically, recreationally, and physically for the people in Napanee, including myself. I'm a walker, and I walk the trail in York almost every day when I live there. So I think it's important that we reconsider this, that we take the land off the surplus list and consider the options carefully and rationally, figure out how we can get the trail done and how we can solve the problems that exist and that are being talked about. These are not made up problems; these are real problems, and we have to deal with them. So, the problems of making sure that we don't affect the business of the farm. I think that's an important question that we have to get an answer to. But I think we can do that. We won't do it by selling the land. So that has to come off. I think that has to come off the table right now.
Yes.
So, having said that, I'll relinquish the rest of my time and get on with the meeting. Thank you very much.
No, seeing none, no questions. Thanks so much, Eric. Next on our list is Donald Stokes. I see Don out front there. Come on up, Don.
Well, if I shake a little, will you just laugh? Maybe not. My name's John Stokes, and I'm a born and raised resident. Grew up here, ended up with a career in recreation and sports. I've written about it, worked in the Rockies with delinquents in it, repaired it, sold it in many parts of the country and more. Having graduated in it, my parents, having grown up here, they oddly encouraged me to probably look outside the area. Being someone that was interested in recreation and sports as a career, and that's what I ended up having to do, and ended up spending the bulk of my career in Western Canada. Thankfully, it treated me pretty well. Along the way, I've been involved with many different recreation initiatives, corporately, usually as a quiet supporting signature or a modest sponsor. Locally, as a younger man, this meant introducing a different idea into the area, which also had a little bit of controversy that folks didn't get to see, which was Springside Community Fish Hatchery, as a notion to the town and the supporting organization, Napanee District Rod and Gun Club. Here I work primarily with a couple of cousins, including, respectfully, the Deputy Mayor Brian Kelber, and also his brother Robert Kelber, as key builders amongst others, along with Ken Holmes and another gentleman named Tony Bartolo, being president, or I guess Ken Holmes was the president at the time. My job was essentially to drive that particular item home. And this included an odd thing that ended up, perhaps this could end up being of some assistance at some point, is where I ended up having to take people on tours. I did this all on my own dime, where I took people on tours to see fish hatcheries at Ampa, Plevna, or not Ampa, Plevna, Ampa, Cloyne, down in Harrismith, up in Scarborough, and I paid for it. I did that, no taxpayer money was required. The end result was that we ended up getting support from multiple organizations, multiple people, some of which disagreed with one another, but we were able to collectively end up doing this. Thankfully, this hatchery operates to this day, now, mainly to the efforts of, respectfully, Brian Keller. And I'm very, very grateful that it does that. One of the things that I'm also very proud of is the notion that this operates with the original notion, which I hope ends up coming into to play for any proposed trail, is to try to minimize the reliance on, going into taxpayer debt, that sort of thing. And, the fish hatchery itself was done with the notion of where, in theory, it needed a little bit of help with just the town of the building, otherwise it needed no money. In reading a little bit over the past couple of days, I've been attempting to get some understanding of why this trail may or may not be possible, and listening to the two gentlemen at the beginning, Mr. Milligan and also Mr. Tuzel, it helps to certainly shed a little bit of light on it. I looked at how long it took the Cataraqui Trail, to make a reality, and I recall when, many years ago, I was writing a little bit about how meeting one of its key personalities, Mr. Knapp, approximately 20 plus years ago, and how it took over 20 years to be able to make every little bit of this count. Make every little bit of this, kilometer by kilometer, property by property, and make it all work. This year seems to be no difference whether it takes the current route or whether it takes a different route. It's a slow, arduous process, and somehow this process changed very, very suddenly, and it's a puzzle to me about how that could take place. My understanding is that while we only have a potential say within the lands within Greater Napanee, that this ban could potentially, in theory, be limited to the place defined as Minsk Bridge, with the remaining of the land being in Stone Mills. I do hope that, as Mr. Tuzel and as Mr. Milligan had suggested, I hope that there's some kind of middle ground that somehow can be reached but still achieve the same objective. In short, I hope that council is able to get beyond, it seems like there's been some difficulty getting some projects, be it a market square, be it a pool, be it a waterfront, a multitude of things where there's been problems. But I hope the council and senior staff are able to get into a figured out mode. During my career, I worked in so many different communities, this all just puzzles me. While one may think about, health and wellness as a big, word surrounding this, my own experience saw a little bit of a different thing that sort of carries over into what Mr. Defoe had said with business attraction, business retention, and even ensuring that quality professionals, like doctors, like healthcare personnel, make a conscious decision to choose a community, make it more appealing instead of opting elsewhere, like I had to do as a young man. Not to say that I was the top draft pick in my class, but it was something there. I recently did a very quick trip to Western Canada. Along the way, because I spent so many times there, I read online about how meeting about a trail got oddly turned around and deemed surplus. With this meeting, this meeting happening before the Recreation Committee, which I understand that I'm a part of, even had a chance to meet, even had a chance to offer an opinion. That puzzled me. I'm hopeful that this is not allowed to happen again, this being the one remaining tract of land that, to connect onto a regional or national network, that somehow this is made to work. My trip to the west took me near this place called Revelstoke, BC, which you might not have heard about it. It's where the famous last spike nearby was done. I traveled south to this very poor community called Napanee, and then on to a place called Nelson, through what's called the Slocan Valley. I had to take a ferry to get there, and oddly, this little tiny community with not a lot of funds, somehow they were able to figure out and plan in advance to change within the industrial base, change within a number of things. They were able to do it 10 years in advance. I suggest that the same sort of planning, whether we have just a little bit of trail to go with initially, or whether we have the whole thing, that needs to begin with some big picture thinking. We'd be living in a much different world today if our forefathers simply stopped building a rail line due to a river crossing or failed to figure out how to overcome any one of a number of problems. This is one of those moments in Napanee, to me, where you figure out about how to cross that river, how to cross those mountains. Our forefathers did. I hope that we're up to the task too. As a young, chunky senior that did used to do a lot of cycling, I welcome this trail to be in my lifetime or failing that, to ensure that the next generation has this opportunity. I hope council and senior staff can take on a can-do attitude and not simply salary scrap yet another project that looks like, as an outsider looking in, as one very workable item that would actually be available to the majority. If it takes a long time, so be it. But let's not simply fail to think, challenge, and simply raise the bar about what may or may not be possible. In closing, I'd like to think of my great-uncle. My great-uncle, Ed Keller, who owned this bike shop in Napanee. He used to have his cronies hanging around, and they'd be smoking and talking far too much, and I'd be choking like a son of a gun, but I have to ask myself, what would Uncle Ed do? Thank you.
Seeing none. Thanks, Don. Next up is Mike Sewell.
Good evening, folks. Thanks. I always kind of do the same thing. I wasn't sure who I'm really addressing tonight. Typically, I get up here and talk about a bunch of stuff, but I'm actually going to read some notes here tonight, so hopefully I won't confuse too many people. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mike Sewell. I may know me as a kind of passionate community guy. I'm a former educator and a lifelong cyclist, and which for me has kind of become more about life choices. And in cycling, it's now about how people choose to commute, recreate, or even do business. Bikes are no longer just about kids. There's a whole lot of things that we now have to hang our hat on our bikes. I'm also a member of the newly formed Active Transportation Allies, which is a group that some of you may have heard about us, and along with Tom Tuzel, we presented on February 14th to Council all the benefits of an active transportation network could bring to the town of Napanee. Like Tom, I'm excited by the possibility a series of in-town trails and loops, and again, I emphasize the loops, that are pedestrian friendly and they're protected. And that's another key point about the trails that we're advocating for, they're protected. And they're not only in town, but they also provide in and around town, with the core always being our focus and the goal. I think there's a lot to be said about trying to get more people, more access to more goods, and ultimately more opportunities. And so tonight I was going to talk about sustainability and equity, and if any of you followed some of the things that I've been saying online, I talked a little bit about equity quite a bit. And so rather than talk about that tonight, I want to talk about collaboration. And so what do you do when you want to collaborate? You join Facebook. And so 3 weeks ago, I joined Facebook. And so for some of you people are going to probably laugh at me, I just joined Facebook. So I got to admit, I've been on Twitter for a long time, but I jumped into the world of Facebook, and I hear and read a lot of things. And I have to admit that prior to this evening, I thought that I really wanted to talk about the benefits, and I think that there's lots of good arguments around that. But what I've come to find out is there was a lot of pieces missing for me, and that was in this notion of communication and collaboration. And so, because there was a lot of missing pieces for me in what I heard from council and what I heard from people on Facebook, I decided, you know what, maybe I should contact Dave Milligan himself and have a conversation. And I found out that not only is Dave articulate, he's also very caring about his farm, obviously, and his family. He's also very caring about this community, and I came to realize after having a conversation with him several times over the last couple of days, even up to today, I come to find out that there's actually far more that we agree on than we disagree. And actually, I can't even think about much that we disagree on. So now I'm really excited about this possibility of us coming together to talk about something that really happened, that's really good for the benefit of everyone. And so, like Tom, I need to apologize for some of the things that I probably have said that may have been taken out of context in a couple of different ways. And I certainly meant no harm to the Milligan family or to the Suttons or the Hamills. I just simply didn't know enough. And I don't know that I still know it all, and I think there's still plenty there, and honestly, I'm looking forward to the town helping resolve this. And so, as we go forward, I know a lot of you are here tonight with the declaration, this notion of making surplus. And you know what, if there's anybody here that's got a beef with that, it could be me in the sense that I was talking to town officials, even as early as like a week before this announcement, and it caught me right off guard. And Brian Keller, who I've known probably his whole life, he said to me today, "Why didn't you come and ask me about this, Mike?" And I said, "You know, Brian, I wanted to come and ask you about it, but I was afraid that it was going to interfere with our relationship, and I was because I was mad." And so, I guess the point is, for me to get up here and talk about equity, and I really believe in equity. Equity is kind of acknowledging that we all don't start from the same place. And I don't think we all start from the same place, but I'd like to think we can all finish in the same place. And so, with that spirit, I'd like to thank Dave Milligan, Rod Sutton, and Mark Hamill. I'd like to thank Brian Califer for coming and helping me explain a little bit more. I'm not necessarily still crazy about the process that put us here tonight. I'm going to admit that and told that to Terry as well. I'm not happy about that. There's some things that we probably all could have done better. And so, really, I just hope that as we go forward, and I'd like to sort of paraphrase what that young lady that went first, I can't remember her name, Laura. She said, "Let's just find a way." And I'm really thinking that's how I see this now. So, guys, let's just find a way to make this happen, because it's not only good for the trail system. You can sort of apply that to a lot of the challenges the town faces right now. Let's just find a way, and again, let's also support the local family farm, because I think that got lost in this conversation. They really are important to Lennox and Addington, and I guess I learned something today about Facebook.
Thank you very much, Mike. As always, very well articulated. Does anybody have any questions of Mike? No, seeing none. Next on the list is Les Humphreys. I know Les, but there's Les. Come on, Les.
Good evening, folks, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for holding this opportunity for us to come together and speak. I'm going to start with what I'm asking for, and then I'm going to go through there. But I also am going to precede what I say by saying I've learned more tonight now at sitting here listening like you are. And I hope that between all of us listening, we can take something forward and do something really great for this town known as Greater Napanee. It's greater for many reasons, according to our water tower. Let's make it that way. And that water tower is viewed by thousands of people that drive by this community. So my preference is that this motion to declare the property surplus and advertise for sale be deferred to a much later date. Simple. So, having heard so much said already this evening, some of my comments I'm going to brief them down from what I submitted in writing. In simple terms, I'd like to see a multi-use trail connecting the railhead portion that's within the 401 limits and continuing beyond that point in time to join up with the Catawalk Trail, the other side of Strathcona. That's the ultimate goal that I would like to see happen. In the beginning, to begin with, I'd like to see all the steel that's removed, that's still sitting on the railhead, removed, and that money be put aside for a project to help fund future development of a trail for both communities. There's more than one way to get to the other side of Strathcona. We can drive, we can fly, we can drone it, we can walk it. But we can do it in a lot of different ways if we get our heads together, step out of the box that's defined by the railhead that exists, and get our thinking going, find another way between those 2 points. The part within town, I think, is almost nonsensical to debate about whether it should be developed. It's there. Let's clean it up and make it work. Talking about trails, there's trails all the way across this country. We've got the Cataraqui Trail from Strathcona to Smith Falls, indeed, ultimately to Ottawa. We're the last link to the Lake of Ontario. And that would be really a valuable addition, I believe. Not only that, we have trails that exist in Prince Edward County, the Millennium Trail. Passes through a lot of different property owners' land, and with land use agreements and other ways to make it happen, that trail became a reality. From Niagara Falls to Tobermory on the tip of the Bruce Peninsula, where the Georgian Bay and Lake Ontario, the Lake Huron meet, there is a trail that goes along the Escarpment. That happened over years. It took a lot of work. Any project that's worth happening is actually worth putting lots of effort into. I do believe this is a valuable project. I also mentioned that the Trans-Canada Trail goes virtually all the way across Canada. Not all the way. Most of the prairies in BC. And in BC, my daughter actually rode along the Trans-Canada Trail for several sections, and where there were breaks in the actual trail, a workaround or a bypass had been developed in order to keep the continuity of the trail together. We've seen and heard remarks about the master recreational plan being adopted. The county plan, Cannington actually has one in which there are objective section states to encourage active transportation. It also encourages protection of abandoned railway beds where possible. Stone Hills also encourages active transportation. I think we can see that there's a very desirable and advantageous result when we can connect to the Cataraqui Trail. Overall, the province of Ontario is encouraging active transportation. So, having heard that the two sides of this particular topic have come together, and that we have an issue that the town has declared the property surplus, I think we need to we'd like to see a step back from that decision for some time, and get lots of creative heads together with the willing initiative to make it happen. I think we've got, as the mayor preceded this meeting with, that we've got good people in this community, and there's good people on council, and there's good people on staff. We've all got skills we can put to work, and we can all have abilities that we can make better things happen in this community. So in closing, please consider this request and the wishes of your community, and weigh the long-term outlook so that we can have a really great result. The time and effort put into this tonight even speaks to making it happen. Ultimately, in the big picture, we do have to respect the decisions made, and I will. Saying that, where there's a will, there is a way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. Is there any questions for us at all? No, seeing none, thank you. Ann McPhail. Is Ann here? Oh, I see somebody coming up. Wait for Ann. Come on up, Ann, thanks.
When I talked with Jessica about speaking tonight, she said that as time goes on, probably people will talk less and less because it's already been said, and that's the case with me right now. And I must say, it's wonderful to see and hear talk of collaboration and communication and people benefiting from something as wonderful as trails in whatever way that it can work. I'm here on behalf of Kingston, Frontenac, Lennox, and Addington Public Health, and am in favor, of course, of physical activity and trails. And for a number of reasons. There have been other reasons that have been identified, and I'd like to speak specifically about have been as you probably know, there are significant physical, mental, social, and community benefits from trails. And trails are associated with enhanced quality of life. Physical inactivity is very prevalent, and it is a significant health risk for a number of chronic diseases, including but not limited to heart disease, diabetes, and certain cancers. Physical activity guidelines from the 24-hour movement guidelines recommend at least 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity per week for most adults, and every bit can help. Trails help people meet physical activity guidelines, and this has been said before, but I think it's really important as well, that trails can be used by people of all ages and abilities year-round, free of charge, and for a variety of physical activities that are meaningful to different people. So walking, cycling, jogging, cross-country skiing, there are lots of different options. There's increasing evidence all the time about the mental health benefits of physical activity, being outside and on trails. And this has been mentioned before as well, but I think it's really important that trails increase accessibility to physical activity and provide equitable recreation opportunities for everybody. Linking trails increases convenience for use, and trails are often used for active transportation, as we've heard as well, so self-propelled travel to get from one place to another. Thank you for including our letter in the agenda package for tonight, and in that has included the fact that in the 90s, and I think somebody had mentioned Doug Knapp, was involved in advocating for trails, and Health Unit was involved in that as well. So we advocated for trails, and we encouraged other Health Unit areas to advocate for trails as well. And now we have the Cataraqui Trail, which extends from Strathcona to Smith Falls, and includes a lot of farmland on the periphery, outside of it, and also the KMP Trail, which extends from downtown Kingston now to Clarendon, north of Cloying, and beyond that. Counts have been done for the Frontenac County portion of the KMP Trail, and last year in 2022 there were over 168,000 users of that trail, with an average daily weekday count of 38 and an average daily weekend count of 73. The City of Kingston hasn't done counts as of yet, but they have noticed that the number of people using it for recreation and active transportation is very high. One of Jane's walks last weekend included the urban portion of the KMP Trail. The Cataraqui Conservation has not yet done counts, hasn't collected data on counts of people using the trail, but they've noted that we've seen a significant increase of users in the past years, and increase in the volunteers associated with Friends of the Cataraqui Trail. So, in closing, I'd just like to say that Cavan Nominee Public Health encourages and supports trails, rails to trails, or whatever trails there may be for health benefits, both now and in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Once again, does anybody have any questions for us? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next on our list is Leonard Austin. Is Leonard here? Yep, there he is. Come on up, Leonard.
Thank you for accepting my letter. I've asked Max to help me out, it's good for shivers up the back to speak in public. I am the president of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture, and we're going to speak. We have 343 members.
Good evening, Council, and thank you for opening this up tonight for the whole public to have a chance to have all of the views represented here tonight and to listen have personal views, but right now I'm wearing my member hat as a board member of the Federation of Agriculture. You, I think, all know where I stand on the issue. It's not very different from what I'm about to say, but I really want to focus on the farm side of it, and unfortunately, it seems to have developed into this farmer versus the rest of the community, and I'm really heartened by the comments we heard earlier from Tom and Dave. It seems like it's changed completely at their level, and I'm really glad that that's come out in public tonight, because we haven't seen that on social media yet, and hopefully that's going to get some traction. From the farming perspective, what makes this situation different than many other trails is the proximity of the rail bed to an active dairy farm. Among the membership of the Federation of Agriculture, we have concerns when it comes to our animal security, our biosecurity, keeping the animals safe and free from any diseases and whatnot. But it's also about the families that work there, the children that are walking among us as we're doing our chores. Sometimes they're driving vehicles around the yard and whatnot. This is not a place for the public. Many farms are set up to receive the public. This is not one of them. And they were developed for generations in proximity to a rail bed that was not a walking trail. This is a fundamental change for them. And so we wanted to make sure that we came forward to speak in support of the Milligans and the Suttons. But having said that, and I said it just a moment ago, I'm really pleased that there's cooperation and cooperative talk, positive, moving forward. We see that the trail can't actually connect to Yarker. When we hit Minks Bridge and continue eastward, there is no possible connection directly. A detour will be necessary. And I'm really looking forward to hear what these fellas are talking about and what comes from that. I wanted to keep it short and brief. Was there anything else?
No, I think we covered it all.
Okay. And if you have any questions?
If there are any questions for either Max or Leonard, council? Seeing none?
Okay, the only last thing is,
Yeah.
go Leafs, go.
I love your optimism, Max. Next up is Rick Ravel. Is Rick? Yep, there he is. Come on up, Rick.
Quite good evening. My name is Rick Ravel. I've lived here for about 4 years. My main occupation is an author now. My grandfather was a farmer. Farmed in Newburgh, and he farmed in Tamworth, and Billy Sutton was his drover. Bought a lot of cattle from him, so I know where the Milligans are coming from. But I can honestly say, without trails and waterways, that I wouldn't have been able to write my first 4 books just for the research alone. I have walked the Rideau Trail from Kingston to Ottawa, and that trail has changed directions at least 30 times. So you don't have to stick to a rail line. They make a lot of detours. Land turns over. People that bought the new land and the new farm said, we really don't want people walking through, so that's fine. You adjust it. I've walked the Cataract Way Trail from Strathcona to Smith Falls. I've walked the K&P from Kingston to Chevrolet Lake. I'm a biker. I've got diabetes, so I try to walk 80 kilometers a day, and I try to, not a day, my God. My wife would never see me. She would probably like that. I try to walk 80 kilometers a week, and I try to bike 80 kilometers a week. My son lives in Kingston. He's 2 minutes away from getting on the trail. He's got 11,000 kilometers since he bought his last bike in 4 years. That's how close he is to the trail. I'm 21 kilometers round trip to get to Strathcona to ride my bike there now. And I appreciate those trails. I appreciate the farmers who let us go through their land. And I've walked through a lot of farmers' land. On Before I came here tonight, I thought I would just Google a couple of things. I Googled bikes and trails. There was 438 million articles that came up. I didn't check every one, I checked a couple. And I Googled hikers and trails, and there was 406 million. So that's almost 1 billion articles on hiking and biking. And my grandfather used to just, because couldn't afford a car, would have to walk to wherever he went. Now, this is a recreation for us, and it's a great recreation. And I hope, like, I didn't know Mr. Milligan or Mr. Tercel, I hope I got his name right. When they came up and talked like they did tonight, that set the tone for the whole meeting. Because they said, they realize where each other's coming from, and they're going to work together. That's great stuff. Like I said, the Rideau Trail has changed directions 30 times. I walked it in the 80s. I was the 65th person to walk, and there's been a lot of people that walked that trail. And that's a rough trail. It's not a trail like the beautiful trails that you got on the Cat Trail and the KMP. And I've also walked the Trans-Canada Trail from Charlotte Lake to Tweed, and that's a beautiful trail too. This old walking stick's walked about 2,000 kilometers with me. And I only had to think that I would have to use it once. And I was walking in Munster, Ontario. The Rideau Trail came out on the highway there because it had to walk around some farms. And it was about 6:30 in the morning. The sun was rising. And as it was rising, there was about a 2,000-pound bull that was walking down the road towards me. Now, I don't know if he was coming home from some action or he was going to some action. I had no idea what I was going to do at 6:30 in the morning, and this guy was walking down the road, and he was just like this. And I went on my side of the road. He just looked at me, and he kept on going. So that made me and that farmer's bull got along great. So I love it here in Napanee. We lived in Kingston area for around 40 years on Union Road. We had quick access to the trails over there. You have a beautiful trail coming from Strathcona. It would be great that you get to connect to it. You have a beautiful trail on the riverfront. And I just hope you all make the right decisions and get along like Mr. Milligan and Mr. Tercel tonight. That was great.
Thanks, Rick. Is there any questions or comments for Rick? Seeing none. Thanks again, Rick. Next up is Ken Morrison.
Good evening. I'm aware that the mayor has a hockey game in about 27 minutes, so I'm going to keep this very quick and brief. My name is Ken Morrison, and I'm not a third generation, fourth generation, or fifth generation Napanean. I'm 30 years out of 55, where I'm a .56 lifetime resident of Napanee. My wife, who's older than me, is a 55.9999999% Napanee resident. I would just like to thank council for having this evening. I'd like to thank Tom and Liz Tuzel for dinner on Friday night and the discussions that we had. I'd like to thank Bob and Wendy Vermillier. Bob showed me a top secret milk producer's handshake on Saturday as we had hamburgers and stuff like that, and I'm deeply indebted for that trust and knowing that you shared a top secret farmer's handshake with me, and I appreciate that. I'd like to thank Councillor Shank for the discussions we had on Sunday. He was in the middle of dinner and he stopped and had a 45-minute chat with him and I. Understood that Teddy's restaurant in Oshawa is one of the best places to eat, so if you're in Oshawa, I've never been. Is it good? Okay, that's it. Good idea. I'd like to thank Deputy Mayor Calver for his time in the last few days for discussions and understanding of everything that he brought to the table when we had a chat. And most importantly, I'd like to thank Dave Milligan for the discussions we've had the last couple of days. I think what Tom and Dave were talking about earlier today, I think it was vitally important that those two groups came together. I think everybody in this room understands that a trail would be incredible from Napanee further north. It's just a matter of how we're going to get there. So I would like to thank everybody for coming together, and I'm hoping that we make this trail an absolutely incredible endeavor, and I think it's obvious that the community backs, and I'd like to thank everybody for the time and effort. Thank you. We can do that now.
Let's say that for
Oh,
another meeting.
tomorrow.
And just so you know, Ken, I can't talk to you about the age comment, I really can't.
Okay.
No, he's in trouble on that one.
Yeah, Kim, I'm 100% sure he's in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
We will let Mother Nature take its natural course of time. So thanks, Ken. Is there any questions for Ken? No, seeing none, thanks so much.
All right, be there.
Sorry, next on the list is Liz Tussell. I know Liz is, here she is. Wow, Liz.
I have had the good fortune of being a family physician in Napanee for the past 35 years. Napanee is a wonderful place to live, work, and raise a family. We're now at a crossroads from our courageous and creative leadership by our council to make it even better. Although not unique to Napanee, as this is a trend occurring all over North America, I've witnessed a decline in the physical and mental health of our town. There's been a rising rate of diabetes, heart disease, obesity, osteoarthritis, depression, anxiety, just to name a few. Although the causes for this rise are many, the one unifying theme when it comes to effective treatment, there's one unifying theme when it comes to effective treatment. Study after study reinforces the knowledge that outside of pharmaceuticals, physical activity is the most effective treatment for all of these conditions. The bottom line is if we want to stay healthy, we all need to find a way to exercise in a way that we enjoy. Through hard work by our town representatives, Napanee is well set up for those who enjoy hockey, soccer, baseball. But most of the people I talk to in my office don't partake in those sports. Walking, running, cycling is by far the most accessible way for everyone to be physically active. Over and over I hear that many feel they don't have a safe or enjoyable place to do this. And now we have an ideal opportunity to provide an accessible trail at very little cost to the town with a team of volunteers keen to do the work. Imagine the possibilities for people of all ages to be able to walk, run, cycle right from the heart of Napanee with connections to other communities. I'm also very involved with the recruitment of family physicians to address our current primary care crisis. Napanee is a popular place for residents from the Queen's Family Medicine Program to work in our offices and hospital, where they experience unique and wonderful opportunities of small town practice. We are actively recruiting these superb graduates, though face competition from other communities also in need. These potential recruits are looking for a town that has a progressive approach to new ideas and recognize the importance of active and safe recreation for all of us. These past few weeks have been very emotional for all parties. Those of us who feel this trail is vital to our future as a progressive and accessible community, and for those who have seen it as a threat to their families, land, and livelihoods. Over the past week, a remarkable shift has occurred where a few of the landowners have offered a workable compromise. With the council's leadership and creativity, we have a rare opportunity to collaborate and create something special. Please support our group in creating an in-town trail that includes the old CN line and safeguard the out-of-town section until a workable arrangement is made to ensure a future connection to Strathcona and the Cathcart Trail beyond.
Deborah Richmond. Is Deborah here? Oh, I see some movement at the back. Come on up, Deborah.
Good evening. I was born and raised in Gardner, so I'm a Stone Mills resident, but I use the trail on a regular basis. I now live in Newburgh. What I chose to talk about a little bit was how I grew up right beside the trail, because I was a kid and the last train went through in 1974. I came from a very community-minded family. My father was Reg James. Was a plumber in the community. We have a strong community of volunteering over the years, and strong connection to community and, of course, to the trails. The history of the trails used for moving Canadians and product like wagon and carriage wheels away from getting across the terrain, connecting people and businesses. Yarker used to have the Benjamin Wheel Factory. Now we've got Goodyear on the other end of Stone Mills. Anyway, I feel that we should keep this trail line with the people population. Everyone from Napanee to Smith Falls would benefit health-wise, and we've talked about that, heard about that tonight. The benefits for using this trail would be, to be in nature. I actually saw a red trillium this spring, so it was quite a nice thing I hadn't seen since I was a kid. Lots of white trilliums too, but anyway. I've written a cookbook about dandelions, and I'm an avid forager, and I collect them and of course eat them and promote them for people's health. Anyway, there's lots to be found along the trails. Exercise, walking, riding bikes. Seniors like myself, retired, just bought a bike to enjoy a safe place to ride and walk. The Ridge Runners use it for snowmobiling, and I've taken my grandkids on many walks on the trails. Moms with strollers and wildlife and birds. To truly discuss this reopening, we need Stone Mills Township to the table, and the Strathcona Paper Mill, and the farmers, and the Conservation Authority, because the problem that we may not be aware of is is that we don't know who gave permission to the Corporation of Strathcona Paper to use this trail to take their waste products down to a field to be stockpiled for the Sutton Farm to distribute. Apparently they have a contract there. So if we are allowed to use this, we should also be able to use the trail, because we don't know who all else has been involved with these backside deals or whatever. And certainly I hope that we can cooperate with everyone and find alternate routes around these things. Anyway, if we are allowed to use it as well, we should also, and time for people to have access around this land. It's not just for corporations' use. We've decided, and who decided this for us? Why was this only published in the Kingston paper and not in local free paper? My mother brought it out to me from Kingston because she gets the Whig Standard. Otherwise, I would have heard about it. Is there any media here tonight? Let's be fair, people, and it is safe. What waste is being spread on the land? Is it safe? Anyway, compromises are needed. Please consider the taxpayers first. We pay their positions, and this needs to be preserved for generations to come. Thank you.
Next up is Scott Chadwick. Is Scott here? Yeah, there he is. Come on up, Scott.
I'd like to thank council for allowing so many people the opportunity to speak on this matter tonight. I'd like to echo the earlier comments. It's amazing the small town we live in, that this many people show up on whatever night this is to actively be involved in town, in town policies and town ideas. So tonight we've heard many strong voices from the community in regards to the development of a trail on the old CN rail line in Napanee. I personally believe that public engagement, whether the people who are for the trail or against the trail, is a great thing for our small town. It allows for these active debates like we're having tonight, and the many consultations that have occurred in the last few days. I hope that through these discussions, we'll be able to create a prosperous, equitable, and welcoming community for all ages and bring all residents closer together. I believe that developing the town-owned land into a trail is the right thing to do when considering the community as a whole. I understand the many challenges that go along with this, but I believe the benefits outweigh the hardships, compromises, and hard work required to complete it. If this land is allocated for trail development instead of being deemed surplus as it was, then it will allow for these future conversations to occur, which possibly may lead to alternate routes, which will make all stakeholders happy. But in order for those conversations to continue, we need to take a step back and make sure this land is kept in town property. What does a trail do for the community? So firstly, it provides a space for free and safe recreation for all activities. It provides an equitable use of public-owned lands and allows all residents to experience the benefits of such. It increases community spirit, like we're seeing tonight. It increases community pride as it gives a space for all residents to interact. It also allows us to stay competitive with neighboring communities, such as Kingston, Picton, Belleville, that all have rail lines that have been turned into trails. It allows for opportunities for community involvement in the creation, maintenance, and daily uses of the trail. It allows for community engagement in outdoor activities. And if the last 3 years has taught us anything, it's about the importance of being inside and being in public settings. It improves the town's cleanliness. If you go for a walk along the current trailhead to the town portion, you'll see how much garbage has been dumped along there. If the trail's revitalized, it'll lessen the impact of dumping in unforeseen places. It provides connectivity to other communities, such as those located along the existing Cataraqui Trail. It also increases connectivity of residents to each other. It provides a safe space for kids to ride their bikes, for new parents to come together to push their strollers, for seniors to meet to go for group walks, for bicycles to set off on adventures, and for community members to walk in peace and connect with themselves. It allows for additional educational opportunities for residents through historical, environmental, and local agriculture interpretive placards. I know my partner can attest to how many times we stopped along the trail so that I could read about the birds or the flowers or the trees, and then often I'd have to run to catch back up with her. It provides the sustainable environmental stewardship benefits not only for the active transportation, but also for the wildlife and habitat education. It provides great economic benefits to the community as people travel to our small town either via the trail or to use the trail. And according to the Global Wellness Institute, the annual growth rate between now and 2030 for wellness tourism is over 7%. I believe that the development of this trail is a huge opportunity for this council to bring a community closer together, closer during discussions like we're having tonight, closer in the joint local businesses and community members who will volunteer to help build and maintain it, closer in the community groups that will form because of it, closer in the connection between urban and rural living, and closer with the daily interactions between neighbors who are using it. I ask council to provide the opportunity for further consultations with all stakeholders to listen to all concerns and benefits and allow them to work together to come up with creative solutions to allow Napanee to join this comprehensive trail network. What we're hearing tonight is not a novel idea. There are over 3,000 kilometers of converted rail beds to trails in Ontario that pass through urban and rural areas, cross through industrial parks, run through heavily trafficked areas, pass alongside peaceful lakes, cross agricultural operations, pass through the middle of businesses, through hunting lands, across front lawns, across driveways, and through hundreds of kilometers of secluded nature. They even cross over and under major highways and waterways. Therefore, there are solutions to the issues that we've heard. The stakeholders just need the time to discuss and work together to find these. Therefore, I'm asking council to allow our community to come closer together and reconsider their decision to deem any portion of County CN rail lines as surplus to allow for these future conversations to occur. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Scott. Does council have any questions or comments for Scott? No, seeing none. Thank you very much, Scott. Next on our list is Jim Peets. There's Jim. Come on up, Jim.
I hate public speaking. Here I am. I bicycle. The wheels have been turning since I was a kid, and they haven't stopped yet. It's a great way to travel. It engages all 5 senses and keeps me aware of my surroundings. It poses challenges to the body and to the mind. My bike has carried me across this continent from sea to sea, from Vancouver Island to Manitoulin Island to Prince Edward Island, from Washington to Pittsburgh, from Quebec to Kingston, from Napanee County to Prince Edward County. Everywhere I've met people, and they like to help. They want to help. There's empathy. Some are in awe. Some want to join the adventure. Some are just curious. Some are not so kind, but most are good people. I ride roads, and when I find them, I travel trails. That's the better way. People who know me would not call me a loudmouth. Sometimes, though, when I'm cycling, I need to be noticed, to be seen and heard, just as we need counsel to take notice tonight. So I use some special things to help people see me and to hear me. When I need it, I use a very loud air horn as I cycle through city streets and country roads. Again, in order to be noticed, to be seen on roads, I wear this ugly yellow jacket. It's a lot safer cycling on trails. I don't need the noisemaker, the bilious colors. I can turn off the flashing white and red lights. So on a trail, you might instead hear me whistling or saying, hello there. Cycling and trails bring tourism. For example, the county has a gravel ride coming up next month. And in September, the Discover L&A ride. These events bring hundreds of tourists who spend their time and money here and tell family and friends about the experience. At the end of May, I'll be joining 8 friends from the Toronto area. We'll be tourists cycling the Cataraqui Trail to Smiths Falls, staying over a couple of nights, exploring more trails, then heading back. I recently heard that this out-of-county category makes up about a quarter of users of the Cataraqui Trail. Sometimes when I cycle, I've lost my way or taken a wrong turn. I've had to turn around. I may have a poor map or something has changed. I may just have bad advice about the route. I need to change course. Just as I believe the council of the town of Greater Napanee has made a wrong turn and needs to reverse the decision or defer the decision that the old CN rail line is surplus to the needs of the town. No, this link is not greater than what Napanee needs. It is what Napanee needs. It is a public resource to be valued and advanced. It just makes good sense to keep it and to work at the old idea of connecting the Cataraqui Trail and all the kilometers of trails that link to it. Let's hear the concerns and deal with them. Let's compromise and take advantage of the collective good in this community. Let's generate positive outcomes. Let's collaborate and connect communities. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. No. Seeing none, Megan Hodgins. I think Megan's probably, there she is. Come on up, Megan.
Stand sideways here so I see both sides of the room here. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak in regards to this issue tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Megan Hodgin. I'm a registered kinesiologist resident and business owner of Diamond Fitness MMA here in Napanee in this building. I am here for two reasons. There's much discussion tonight about the collaboration that may be made, which is fantastic news. That's news to I think most of us here. With hopefully we can join this trail together. I have the petitions to provide to council. So I provide online petition signed, which was over 1,300 signatures online and over 430 handwritten signatures by community members. The petition reads, "We, the undersigned residents of Greater Napanee, Lennox and Addington and surrounding area, call upon the council to revoke the intent to sell the disused rail line north of Highway 401 in favor of using the right-of-way to connect Napanee to the Cataraqui Trail and the Greater Southern Ontario Trail Network for the benefit of Greater Napanee and the entire Eastern Ontario community." Within the envelope I gave you are the online signatures, the handwritten signatures, and 59 individual comments from community members, their thoughts in support and necessity of the trail. From all these signatures that we have from the community, and as people are here tonight supporting both sides, we see with this petition that it is a need for the community, and we ask council to revoke their decision to deem any land on the CN railbed as surplus. Now my speech has changed from what's come about tonight with Dave Milligan talking and with Tom Tuzel bringing their transparency to what is now where we are right now. So I think a joint collaboration can be made, but I also think from all of this there has been a lot of lack of transparency and fear for both the residents of the town, but then also of the local farmers and landowners. We need to stop the surplus land, to stop the fear that we have in the community. Right now, there's this fear of the sale, which now we're fear that there's going to be no trail. Now there's fear of the farmers that this is going to destroy their business. I think a collaboration can be made from the numerous stakeholders, as we've seen across Ontario, to preserve nature for everyone to enjoy. This trail should be a positive place and a peaceful conversation to bring community together. And right now I feel a collaboration can be made with the landowners of the trailbed, neighboring landowners, and community partners to make this happen. I'm asking council again to rethink the decision on deeming this land as surplus for now and make a trail to help all parties. Do not allow a short-term transaction ruin a lifetime of unlimited opportunities. Thank you for your time.
Any comments from council or questions? No, seeing none, thank you. Next on our list, I hope everybody's still okay, we'll keep plugging along if we are, is Peggy Collins. Is Peggy here? Oh, yeah, come on up, Peggy.
Thank you, Council, for staying at all of this. Thank you guys for being here. I'm going to throw this out the window because everyone has really said what needs to be said. Tom and Dave starting out, that was amazing. And everything in here was about collaboration, community, and being connected. I came at this, I joined the Napanee, I'm part of the Napanee, or the Trail Alliance Allies, I keep forgetting what we're called. I have to apologize for the social media freight train that happens when something goes out on social media. I think a lot of people read headlines and react. I don't think people are reading full articles and thinking through what's being said and what's being considered. And there's a lot of vitriol that happens online. I started the petition with the help of the Active Transportation Allies. We thought very long and hard about what we were going to put up there. I really don't like conflict. I find it really upsetting. I write kids' books. This is not what I want to do. I don't want to fight. So what I love about what's happening here is we're talking and we're considering and we're hearing all sides of the story. I think there's a way. My purpose for being here is about safety. I'm a parent. I found myself in Newburgh in 2019 and next to the Cataract Trail, and I fell in love with it. It saved me, it saved my mental health, saved all sorts of things. My kids learned to ride long distances on it. When my son got a job in town, as a single mom, I couldn't always take him into town. And so he would ride his bike from Newburgh into town to work. Every time I heard a siren, I panicked. Every time I heard a screech of tires, all I could think was that was my kid. What I really wanted the whole time was the capacity for that trail to come into Napanee safely so that kids, the teenagers who want to work, but they can't afford cars, aren't old enough to drive. Cars are really expensive. We pay $300 a month for my son's insurance at 17. So there's not a lot of people that can afford to do that. He works so we can do it. Being able to have, I hear a lot of people complaining about people not being able to work. Coming into work, we have tons of youth in the outskirts of our town that would work, that want to work, they want to make money, but it's impossible to afford it all. And so having this ability to come safely into town to work, ride their bikes, put the lights on, have some fresh air, get some exercise, do things together, it's been life-changing for us. But the worry in my heart every single time he sets out on his bike, because Napanee is not a very bike-friendly town. It's impossible to go out on the street. So I plead to you as a parent, as somebody who has kids in the community, who teaches kids in the community, who just really, I don't want that sick feeling. It happens in Kingston at the intersection. All I can think about is the ways in and out of town are all highways. So right now, you go up 41 and you have to go through the 401 overpass or underpass. And have you ever tried to go on a bike or walk? It's awful. Or you got Highway 2. It's really busy. The shoulder is really narrow. It's really gravelly. Cars go by really fast. Trucks are bigger by, I think, 15 to 20% now than they were 20 years ago. It's hard to see kids on bikes. So our kids don't ride bikes. And then we end up in a situation where people are not healthy and not exercising and they're not doing the fun things, and instead they're on their devices all the time. So the best way to get kids off their devices is to put them on bikes, because you can't be on your device while you're riding your bike because you crash. So I just think that if we can really just work as a community to build this whole idea that our kids matter, right? We want them to stay here. We want them to come back here. And the way to do that is to make a community that they want to be in, that they can have fun in, they can feel connected to each other, and they can ride around and they can just be kids. The trail has been that for us. As a single mom with 2 kids on bikes when they were little, the only way I could take them out was on a trail where they could go all willy-nilly, because if you've been on a road with a kid who's learning to ride a bike, it's terrifying as a driver, right? It's absolutely terrifying as a mom. So I think that it's really, really important that we find a way. The trail doesn't need to be straight through the land. I don't really care about that. I also really care deeply about my friends who are families of part of the farmers and the landowners. And I don't want anybody to feel bad here. Our community is small. I moved here in 2004. I'm really new to Napanee. I love it here. I think that it's a really, really wonderful place to live. And I think it's really heartening to see everyone working together and talking about it. But safety is my like #1 priority. And if you can consider what it's like to have a kid on a bike, trying to ride into town to go to work, it sucks. Right now, it's really, really hard. So, thank you.
Seeing none, thank you. Next up is Hubert Vogel.
Thank you for hearing you, Mr. Mayor and Council. And, thank you for organizing this meeting. Thank you for organizing it on the night of the Region of I want to start by noting what changes taking place in the world these days. There's changes in the way farms are run that becoming bigger. Becoming more complex. Did you not hear me? Farms are becoming bigger, they're becoming more complex, more mechanized, and more fragile. I understand the concerns that Mr. Milligan, Mr. Sutton have, and they're legitimate concerns. They're good operators of their farms. Yes, we should give them a hand. They're respected members of the community, and they operate large farming operations, and I'm sure they operate them well. And they have, this is the fourth generation, when I remember the first generation, which was going back to when I arrived here in 1970. Some of them were, I had dealings with some of them, and I know how many of them were from the family, and they're good people, and they have legitimate concerns, which need to be addressed. And they need to be addressed in the same way they're addressed in the other 443 municipalities in Ontario, and they can be addressed. I'm happy to see that there's been some coming together of the different factions here. And I think what you're seeing here tonight, I don't intend to cover what's already been covered, but you're seeing a great outpouring of desire for change in the way recreational services are provided. We see that with the pool, for example. 10 years ago, our rotary pool was closed down, and there was not much complaint about it. But now we're getting increasing pressure for a recreation center, for an aquatic center. And that's important. You're seeing pressure for other recreational services, and this is one of them. And this is a relatively low-tech, low-cost service in the community, and it needs to be looked at closely, and it needs to be done in a way that accommodates the concerns of the farmers. As I say, the farmers have large, complex farming operations, but they're not unique. They have 200 Holstein cows, which are all barcoded, and they're milked with complex machinery. In some places, they're run by robots, believe it or not. I couldn't believe it when I heard that before. I don't know if Mr. Milligan knows it that way, but it's coming. These are the changes that are happening here. There are changes in what people are demanding in the way of services, and there are changes in the way people are communicating. But there's nothing more heartwarming than seeing a meeting like this, where everybody sort of comes together. Let's all hang out, as we used to say, and it looks each other in the eye and says what they think. The concerns that Mr. Milligan and Mr. Sutton have are not unique to their farming operations, common to other farming operations that are along the different trails. And their concerns, some of them are not even unique to farming operations. They're just general concerns. They complain about trespassing, littering, theft, vandalism, and homeless people. I have all of those problems right in the main intersection of Napanee. Mr. Sutton complained about theft of a four-wheeler. I had a $8,000 dump trailer stolen last year on the back of Pandora's. I've had vandalism. He's had homeless people living in the quarry near his farm. I've had homeless people living in the lobby of the old post office of the Pandora's. These are problems everywhere, not just unique to farmers. these concerns need to be addressed, that he has, and they need to be addressed by fencing, gates, security, in the same way they're addressed in other areas. That's really all I have to say about the operation that they run. I think that the concerns need to be addressed. They need to be addressed with a careful inquiry and by getting it all on the table. They're members of the Recreation Committee, and that's a good place for them to bring the concerns forward to the town. And they can be aired and studied, and ways can be found to meet those concerns. The question, to my mind, is not whether we build the trail, but how we do it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how, not the weather, but the how. There's a bunch of steel there, as you've been told, and I know one of the persons who bid on the steel, and he was prepared to pay $50,000 for it, take it out. He'll give you $50,000, and I'm told there's another one who offered to take the steel out and build a trail. We built a trail for the steel that was there. The steel is worth more now than it was when Mr. Taylor looked at it back 2 years ago and presented this report to council. This is possible that this could be done at relatively little cost. There's a problem here in that the trail begins in Napanee and it goes back to town and it passes through 2 municipalities. So that is something that is the real nub of the problem from your point of view, is that you don't control the decision making along the way. Stone Mills has to become involved in this, and I think that's where the next thing that needs to be done here is to involve Stone Mills. I know Mr. Sutton and Mr. Milligan were at the Stone Mills Council. I watched the video of that, and I got the impression that they were ready to roll up their sleeves and deal with it the same as I hope the 7 of you are ready to roll up their sleeves and deal with this. And I think that the way to do this, there has to be a joint committee set up of some kind, involving members of staff and perhaps members of council from each municipality to solve the problems. The problems are different in Stone Mills than they are here. But there are some joint interests. There's a joint interest in removing the steel with the same contractor. And the steel in Stone Mills is not owned by Stone Mills. It's owned by Strathmore Paper Company and the Solar Company. And I'm sure they would be happy to have money from it. If the town and the township facilitated that, they would be more likely to come to an agreement to see the rail line built all the way through. There are issues in the, as Mr. Sutton has pointed out, there are issues right in close proximity to Strathmore Paper Company because they use it for their industrial operation. But there's also vacant land just north of it. A parallel road could be built for bicycles and bikers, fenced on both sides so that there would be no occasion for trucks to come into conflict with bicycles and cyclists. But that's a matter for Stone Mills. That's not for you to determine. I just want to say that I believe there's solutions there. And I believe that the most important thing you can do is to set up a committee in common with Stone Mills to deal with some of the common issues. And the issues there are different because they don't own the government, where you own the line and where you can take control of it. So what I'm going to suggest, as Mr. DePoe said, and Mr. Sewell said, that we step back. I suggest that council should defer at their next meeting when they consider this, defer any disposition, any sale or disposition of this rail line for the balance of this term of council. We declare the surplus. It takes 5 to 2 votes to reverse that, to reverse a decision already made. But it only takes 4 to 3 votes to defer this to the rest of the term of council. You should defer this, say, any proposal to sell the rail line for the rest of this term of council. And you should direct staff to consult the Stone Mills with a view to forming a joint committee to deal with the remaining issues. And that's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. There's a lot of issues here, not just Mr. Milligan's and Mr. Sutton's issue, but the solar company and the Strathmore Paper. And it's going to take a joint committee. I don't see any other way to do it to resolve this. And that's where I think this needs to go, and it's probably going to take the rest of this term of the council just to, knowing how things go, to get to the point where we might see this actually done. And if things go well, it might be done at very little expense, and everybody will be happy about it. So that's my suggestion. I think that when we, after your next meeting where you deal with this, Mr. Pinsett should pick up the phone and you should call Brian Lewis, who is his counterpart in Stone Mills, and they should have a frank conversation about how to deal with this, the best way to deal with it to move forward. And it's also, of course, it's dependent on funding. If it's going to cost a lot of money, you're going to have to wait until it comes to the top of the list of the chief. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments from Mr. Holden? No, seeing none, thank you very much, sir. Next up is Rob Sutton.
Thank you, Mayor, Richardson, and Council for the opportunity for all of us to speak tonight. My name is Rob Sutton. I own and operate Sutton Farms alongside my parents, Jack and Pat, wife Andrea, and two daughters, Kristen and Lauren. Our farm has been in the family for 119 years and 6 generations. We are located just east of Napanee with land adjacent.
Can you pick up the microphone? Pick up the microphone, please.
Yeah, land adjacent to the proposed trail, formerly known as the CN rail line. Our farm abuts the proposed trail in Greater Napanee and Stone Mills. With the proposed trail running through our property, we have concerns about the safety of our farm as do the milligans, our animals, and also the public if this trail is allowed to go through. Our family are avid hunters and have several tree stands located within a few hundred feet of the proposed trail, which is not very safe for walking. We're also concerned about the possibilities of people leaving the proposed trail to continue down their lane across our bridge and further onto our farm. And there was a concern about Strathcona here earlier. They own the land from Minks Bridge to Strathcona, so they've had it for 25, 30 years. So we do use approximately a kilometer long stretch from Strathcona to our farm to use for access to our fields while we harvest crops, spread manure, and spread the paper compost from the paper mill. With these activities, I don't know, I was supposed to have a picture, but I don't know if I got any. Okay, there's pictures online of the equipment that we use up and down where the proposed trail goes. If you could take a look at it, and please tell me how that would be safe to have people walking, bicycles, kids with strollers, people with dogs. It's just a recipe for disaster. Don't have a lot more to say other than clear up a few misconceptions. I believe one person here just earlier said opponents for and against the trail. The Milligans and Suttons have never been against the trail. We've been against the route that runs through our farms, that endangers our farms, our animals, and the public if they were to go through here. And also, it was brought up a petition to you with 1,300 and something signatures. I had 2 people reach out to me with concerns and questions about our end of our problems. If you want to find out the problems, don't go to Facebook. Reach out to the people that are involved in it and get the real story. So I think tonight we've learned that communication is the key for this whole thing, and that's what's hurt us all along. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Any questions or comments for Rob? No, seeing none. Thanks, Rob. Next up would be Mark Hamill.
Hello. Through council and your worship, I would like to take this opportunity to discuss the disposition of the CN rail line north of the 401. I'd first like to thank council for the action they took after receiving our offer to purchase this piece of property in declaring it surplus so we can continue a conversation on this matter. So thank you. The parcel land in question, as our mayor went through earlier, it was described. It is also described underneath our bylaws as a C2 classification, meaning it is undevelopable according to our bylaw. On the east end of the property that we've discussed, there's 3 separate parcels of privately owned property that fall outside the jurisdiction of Napanee Council. These are privately owned pieces that essentially we don't have the authority to judge. So on our end, it is my belief that we have a dead end on our portion. There's been talk as well of joining this rail line all the way from Deserano to Strathcona, which on the same rail line on the west side of town is also privately owned sections scattered throughout from the old Richmond Township. So there's lots of private ownerships of land throughout that region, which inhibits this route of the CN rail line. I'm not saying there isn't other routes that could work, and we are all for proposing other routes. Just the CN rail line route doesn't seem to be the way to go. With that being said, it's my view that council dispose of the rail line parcel in question, take the monies from the sale, and work hard so we can initially start to develop our trails in town. From King Street to Crouch Street, back down through the graveyard, like the concept drawing that's on the side wall, and hooking into Springside Park. And even from the west side of town, if you could bring the trail down through Cherrywood Park and down to Highway 2 and back into town, you could essentially loop our entire urban area together. And I did provide council, there's a map in there of that drawing, of a concept drawing for that. As there's been talk of our recreation official master plan, there's also some information in that plan that says that our average population over the age of 65 is higher in Napanee than it is the rest of Napanee County and Ontario. So therefore, I feel like it is very important when we work on trails and urban trails, we work on things with solid bases that can be used by every type of person, every age category, young children, people with disabilities, young children learning how to rollerblade or bike, as was discussed earlier, is much easier on solid bases. I have a 3-year-old and he does not like biking on gravel because he can't do it. So I think that is a very important part of our trail development, is to look at how we tie our urban area together and the base that we can use in order to make that work. And I think those are great first steps. And the discussions we've had with Tom and Mike and everyone, just to try and get that ball rolling, I think is very important. I'd also like to touch on, there are currently trails through Lennox and Addington. There's currently 12 cycling routes, designated cycling routes throughout Napanee County, as well as there are areas which we could accommodate more cyclers with their active trail network that is provided from the county when they review the county roads. It's a 1.2 to 1.5 meter area on the side of the road that is meant, according to the Napanee County Master Plan, to accommodate joggers, cyclists, non-motorized means of active transportation. Now, I know that might not be ideal for everyone, but it also is a starting point. It's a starting point to get us from point A to point B. It might not be the ideal route, but it's a route we can use until we can find an ideal route that works for everyone. So I would like to think that some of the economic spin-offs that are said to be provided to our town from joining us to the Cat Trail we could already reap those benefits if we use the infrastructure we already have. I know on Tuesday's meeting, our CAO, John Pinson, had a discussion about managing resources and building financial acumen after I read his report. And I know that has a lot to do with asset management, but what I took away from it was not throwing money away at things to accomplish the same goals that we might be able to accomplish working with other partners. So I think it's very important to work with our county partners in order to build things that go to where we want them to go as a community, but not for both competing levels of government to do it, because I feel like building a road to the same spot that accomplishes the same thing is a waste of money. So I feel like those are resources we need to work on. I would like to touch a little bit on how exactly that detrimental effects this road have to our farm. We deal with trespassing issues, thefts, whether it's from homeless encampments. There's cyclist joggers, people who are looking for a social media photo. You'll come in and be like, who's this person? And they're taking a selfie and you're like, what are you doing here? And then they just move along the way. And we feel like a trail that would exacerbate that effect when it goes right through the middle of our operation. I chalk it up to the fact that when we discussed earlier, how much garbage do you see dumped in the middle of Cherrywood Park subdivision? How much garbage do you see dumped on dead-end roads, on back roads? People have a knack for being more responsible when they know someone's probably watching, when there's more use, when there's more people around. If it's a lot more for someone to walk up the front of your driveway than it is to maybe sneak in the back door. And that's a worry that we have with this. I know people will say, well, I walked in Canton East before and I didn't have any issues. And I frequently go on the trails and they seem fine. And I'm here to tell you that the people who get the negative effects of these trails aren't the occasional users. They're not people who use them on a daily basis and walk. They're the people who live there, who are there 24/7, 365 days a year. They don't leave. That is our home. We don't occasionally come and go. We are there all the time, and we would be getting the negative effects, not the individuals. I don't know how many of you heard about the local story of a farmer who was brutally assaulted on his property when he confronted a trespasser. Now, I know this may seem like an isolated incident, but there are many instances where this happens, and it goes unreported because, frankly, unless it escalates into a criminal situation, they're hard to prosecute, and people's hands are tied. I would also like to touch on a few other things. When the news article in the Kingston Week Standard was published, we had people, landowners, from towards the Harrowsmith Way reach out to us and say, please, whatever you do, don't let this happen to your farm. They are budding landowners, and they're right now going through lawsuits, and they're in crisis. They said it was the worst thing that's ever happened to them, and they would not want us to give you their names, which we could provide privately, but they said it is the worst thing that could happen, and please, whatever you can do, fight for your farm, fight for your families. Now, there's a few other things I'd like to touch on, first of all, that some people discussed earlier here tonight. One was, there was some talk of trails that run under highways, alongside roads, and there's many different ways to do it. And my thought is, if that works, the stretch from Napanee to the entrance of the Cataract Way Trail is 6.86 kilometers. And I would have to think that there's more than only this route that can be used to get there. If the trail is used all over the countryside, and like we heard earlier, it goes in 30 different directions, it changes all the time, why does this need to be the only route? I believe we've had some great discussions earlier about finding different routes, and I think we're on the same page with a lot of people. But I just want to clarify with some that don't feel the same way, that there are other routes that can work for everyone, and we're open to that. We really want everyone to understand the detrimental situation that this would put our family in, our business in, and frankly our livelihood and food production in. there was some talk earlier about trail bringing people to your business, and I believe it was Mr. DePoe, and I thought to myself, I said, that's great. If you're a person who wanted people to come to your business, what a great thing. If you're a person who doesn't want people on their property, the opposite thing. What a poor thing to have people who come off the trail to your property. And I thought to myself, when he said fixed and variable costs, I thought that would be great. People come off the trail and go to a restaurant. But what happens if people come off the trail and you show up and you don't have a stove anymore in your restaurant? I won't take up any more of your time. Can I do a small closing paragraph here? It'll be very quickly, if I find it. I would just like to say that we hope that you see the many different layers that we approach this issue with, and take time to review the documents I've provided from OFA, our vet, our insurance company, as well as many other supporting photos, maps that show current routes, possible routes, and know that there is a different way that this can work, and we are all for trying to get that to go together. We just really feel that the disposition of this land would be the security, our family, our farm, and essentially the agriculture industry as a whole in LNA needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, next up is Sean Lucas.
Thank you. Thank you, members of council and staff, for organizing this meeting, and everyone who showed up. Some of them still hanging in there. Before I get into my comments, I just want to make a point of order. I complained to the towns as well as other people for accessibility. This is not going to be the last meeting this council has in this form, because we can't accommodate large interests at the old town hall and the new town hall. So I really would seriously suggest that council make these meetings in this building accessible via social media, including virtual deputations. I am positive that the interest in this meeting would have resonated not only with the community, but interested parties watching what we're doing. So I don't agree that we're not broadcasting it, and I just want to make that note again. I am a past member of council. I'm a resident of Napanee. I'm a business operator downtown Napanee. I'm not necessarily an avid biker, but we do cycle through the area. I do use the trails, but I'm not going to profess that I'm level 15 and compare myself with other people who are smoking tonight. I am concerned about exactly what happened in the in-camera meeting to discuss this matter. I'm concerned what information was given to council for decision. I'm concerned about council's individual opinions, and I'm concerned if council has received further information since they made their decision.
Sean?
Yeah.
I'm going to allow you to continue, but let's stay focused as to what we're going to talk about. I think you, being a former member of council, have the authority and the knowledge here that if you have concerns of what happened in closed session, you know how to deal with that. So, and if you don't know how to deal with it, I can explain that to you after the meeting. But let's stick to the facts and let's stick to the fact at hand. Okay? Thank you.
I was on council when we took possession of this land. This land has passed several official plan reviews. It's been part of our past master recreation plan and our current one. And we have an active community group working for several years to get this project going and become a reality. We're one of the last links to join up to this local, regional, provincial, national, and international pathways link. This is the 21st century. What roadways were in the 20th century, railways were in the 19th century, pathways are now the mode of transportation in the 21st century. Imagine what Napanee would look like if we did not have the CN Rail, a 401 highway running through our community. This is the next and maybe the last mode of transportation for the next several decades and probably centuries. It is our property and has been public property for 3 centuries. And using it as a public pathway will do no more harm than thousands of kinds of pathways that are cutting through other properties. I've spoken to a lot of people at my place of business, on the phone, whatever, and one story stands out. I had a gentleman come to my store who lived on River Road. And we got talking about this whole situation there, and he says, Sean, I take my kids to Strathcona to learn to ride bikes on the pathway, for public walking, and he says, I don't understand why this is happening. It's not safe for us to travel on River Road. And he also joins, he's part of the Boy Scouts, and the Boy Scouts use it as well. We need this pathway. I'm hearing discussion tonight, it sounds like, there's something going on that needs to be done, but it's certainly clear to me that pathways are another mode of transportation that we need going forward. When I was on council, we took this on. My vision in 2010 was to have it working by 2012. The last thing I thought we would be doing would be selling it. 10 or 15 years after the fact. It's interesting to note, I think we're one of the few communities with a roadway, waterway, and railway, along with a walking pathway, that are within minutes of each other. From the downtown core of Napanee, you can catch a boat, catch a train, catch a car, or catch a pathway to travel anywhere you want. That's a very unique feature of trying to research all the shorelines material that might have that possibility. I don't think there's many. Anyways, the bottom end, I would certainly appreciate hearing from council at the right time as to what's going on from from their point of view, and based on tonight's summaries, my final recommendations would be pause this process. Take a breath of air. Let's not make any rash decisions. Let's get more information, more public meetings. I think the goal here is to include this new mode of accommodation of travel. I think the railway is the way to go. That has been the way it is for decades, if not centuries, and we've got to find an amicable solution. Thank you for your time.
Councilor Brown.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question that's probably for you first. But I do believe that you started off this meeting saying that it's being recorded and it will be put onto our YouTube channel at a later date.
That's correct.
Is that true? Thank you.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you, Councilor Brown. Yeah, go ahead, John.
It has become the policy of this council since COVID to broadcast regular meetings. This component tonight is part of your regular meeting that has been moved to here because of the public interest. A lot of people who can't make it, don't have the means to get here, need to be included. So we got to be consistent on our policy of broadcasting meetings. So this is not the way to go. We have to make sure uniformity with accessibility for everyone.
Seeing none, thanks. And the last of the recorded or the registered deputations is Sean Walhout, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Mike Walhout, sorry. Mike Walhout? Walhout?
Yep, all better.
Oh, okay, there he is. I'm sorry, Mike, I just don't know how to tell.
Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity. There's two reasons I'd like to read my written comments here tonight. One is I think Council needs all the information, and also to address the room and the people that came out here tonight to sort of understand why a farmer may not want this trail coming so close to their property. These are my written comments that were submitted. I stand with the farmers who cannot support the opening of a public trail in a portion of the former CN rail line north of the 401. Having seen firsthand the close proximity the proposed trail would be to their farm buildings, animals, feed storage, water sources, and machine activity, it is without question that Council should not support this. All dairy farmers in Canada are regulated in order to support high quality standards in environmental protection and biosecurity. The national standard that these farms adhere to is referred to as the Pro Action Program. is acknowledged by the Government of Canada, Dairy Farmers of Canada, and regulated by third-party audit. I would like to provide some details and pro-action regarding biosecurity on farm. National Standard 404, which states controlling traffic and visitors is an essential part of biosecurity. Pathogens can be introduced and spread by contaminated footwear, clothing, and hands, as well as vehicles, farm machinery, and other equipment. The risk of people, vehicles, and equipment transmitting pathogens to cattle can be managed if those involved understand and adhere to the biosecurity measures in place on your farm. Some of the standard operating procedures already in place on these farms are to list biosecurity measures for visitors and service providers to follow depending on the level of risk that each visitor poses, and to require all visitors and service providers put on clean clothing and overshoes, clean boots, or disposable boots prior to entering the production area. Biosecurity on the farm is critical for the health and well-being of animals, and we as dairy farmers are encouraged to plan ahead for all visitors. By requiring visitors to make an appointment, inform all visitors of biosecurity requirements, keep a record of all visitors and deliveries, designate a specific parking area for visitors and employees. Farms are relatively open areas by the nature of larger fields, and it's difficult to control unwanted entry. Many farms post biosecurity signage and no trespassing signs at the main entrance to avoid unannounced visitors who may not be aware of the biosecurity risks. The risk and liability to the farmers is real and should be considered during council's process going forward. While there are many examples of recreation trails that cross farmland, the close proximity to the former CN rail line north of the 401 to feed storage, animals, and farm activity puts 2 local farm businesses at risk. I ask the council to consider other options to connect the trails given the impact using the trail would have on 2 long-standing farm families and their livelihoods. We don't expect our consumers and our members of the community to understand what goes on farm, but we are regulated and these programs are in place to protect the farms, but also to ensure that we have support from the community for what we do, and for that reason, I thank you for the time to give you the written comments.
Thank you, Mike.
I'm looking at the map that was provided, I think, by Dave Hamill or Dave. I got the names right. Okay. Mark Hamill, sorry. And I had no idea that it was that close. I'm just saying 65 feet from the proposed trail to the water source for everything that's, all water that's used. Sorry, all water that's used on the farm. So for those of you that don't have this map, 65 feet, like, that's really close. But what I am noticing is the manure lagoon. So if somebody were to go off trail, is that fenced? Is it fenced in? Sorry, Dave, maybe you can answer, or Mark?
No.
It's not fenced? Okay, I didn't think so.
There's a small section of it where we use a laneway in order to pump it out.
Okay.
But the remaining 135 feet.
Right. So I understand the concerns, it's not just for your safety, but for the safety of somebody that, takes a left turn at Albuquerque and ends up swimming somewhere that they don't want to be. So, I get that, because it is really, I really appreciate the map. I'm a visual person, and this is great. Thank you very much.
Oh, they're really far. Yeah, they're marked. Are they marked? They're marked as well, right? If they're very far apart and they're not contaminating one another. Oh, no, I'm saying we're not gonna go into one or the other.
No, what I'm saying is someone that's on the trail, walking, and if they were to go off trail, I mean, you're talking about a great expense here to fence off this entire trail. I'm just, everything I've heard tonight, I'm asking these questions. Somebody can actually, the biosecurity, if someone were to poison the well, you're done. You're done, whether it's a dead cat or.
Sorry, Councilor Hicks, I thought you were done, so we took the mic away from you.
So what I'm saying is I now fully understand much better, where the landowners are coming from.
The fencing would be our responsibility, though, if we were to make the trail, it would be the responsibility of the trail maker, correct, not the park.
Right.
Yeah. So that's all.
So that's solved. Okay, well, we'll talk about the price of chain link fence, Mike? No.
I'll just say one thing.
Okay, I'll pass this over to Mike. But thank you again.
Now, I'm a farmer. It's not the 90% that are great, that would stay on the trail. It's the 10% that are gonna start wandering somewhere else. They're the concerns. What the Milligan's and the Suttons have is the close proximity to where it is. They're not saying that they don't want a trail. It's just the close proximity towards the barn, which is their problem, their business, they're self-employed. If something ever happened to one of them, who's gonna milk their cows, who's gonna do their stuff, so you have to understand, they have some legitimate concerns that have to be addressed by council and everybody. So here's a prime example. I've got there's probably an 80-acre field that I have right close to Highway 33. The wheat looks beautiful this year. I have a lot of money invested in fertilizer. That's not cheap anymore. All right, and it's growing beautiful. We just had 3.5 inches of rain. I'm driving home, coming from a meeting, and I have 40 people, 150 feet into the wheat field, and I have a person taking a picture of it. And I'm going, could you not just stand along the edge of the road and get the same picture? And it looked like a herd of cattle going through that wheat field. Now, do I have to fence every field that I have? That's the 10%. That's the reality of today's demographics of what we have. So I understand their concern. I can understand your concern in wanting a trail, but they're going to work together, and everybody's going to work together and come to a conclusion.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. No? Yeah, we've still got some more, we've got a bunch of non-registered deputations, and I think even though it's not on the agenda, I'm going to offer up an opportunity to council to speak if they wish to do so. So, having said that, we're through the registered deputation portion of tonight. We do have some non-registered deputations that have been registered on the sheet as they come in, and we'll be able to listen to those deputations. Unfortunately, they're going to be shorter, they're only going to be about 3 minutes. So, first on the list is Christine Peets. Is Christine still? There she is. Come on up, Christine. Like I say, I apologize for not to be down for 3 minutes.
Probably only need two. I'm here on behalf of myself and also Diane Talas, who is the director for the Seniors Outreach Services. And if you're familiar with SOS, it's a wonderful organization that provides a lot of opportunities for seniors in our communities to stay active and healthy. And one of the one of the ways that we do that is through the Nordic Walking Group. And we have walked on a number of the different trails within town. We would love to see more developed in town. We would love to see eventually trails out of town. We have walked on part of the Cat Trail and enjoyed that. And it's we gather regularly, and it's social as well as physical and mental benefits to all of us. And so we are very much in support of future development of trails.
Thank you, Christine. Seeing none, next will be Denise O'Brien. Denise, oh, there she is right there. Come on up, Denise.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you very much for facilitating this. I didn't think I was going to be speaking, but I guess the only thing, I pretty much agree with everything everyone has said. I don't totally understand the geography, and then as you said, which maybe well, it will be shared online, I guess, to get a better idea. The only thing I want to add is one of the ladies spoke about her son bicycling to work. And a lot of people could use those trails to get to places, which means, and I'm going to go into the climate crisis issue here, if less people are driving their cars, less emissions. I'm also going to speak for a very good dear friend of mine, Anne, who could not be here tonight. She has serious mobility problems, and her only freedom, of course, in good weather, is her scooter to use the trails. So I think we have to consider both of those things. It's not just, and I don't disagree, it's exercise, but it's also people's accessibility to consider. And I guess, maybe I'm a little naive, but if this is surplus land that you want to sell, who's it going to be sold to? And are the new owners going to be more detrimental to the farms than a trail? Anyways, that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise. Seeing none. Lee Daniel, am I saying that right? Lee Daniel?
God loves the farmer. Thank all of you farmers, Cade City. Thank you all. We appreciate you, we love you. We know you have our best interests at heart. We really do. That being said, we have lots of best interests. And being knowledgeable about what's happening in our community, and when surplus land comes available, for whatever reason, we should all be knowing these reasons. I just walked the Inca Trail, part of it, not all of it, because you'd have to be pretty old to talk to God, but trails are good for emotional and other outlets. And our communities right now have a high percentage of homeless people. And homeless people are a problem that we're all really a cause of. And I hope that in the future, the planning will include housing for homeless people and housing for the less fortunate, as well as bike trails and these other things. But I guess the most important thing is that everybody came to a consensus to try to work together. So that's the best that we can do. As long as everybody's above board and honest, we're all going to get somewhere that's going to be good for all of us. So thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Any questions for Lee? No, seeing none. Linda Dishy. Is Linda Dishy here? Yeah, I see some of them. Come on up, Linda.
Okay, so this is new for me. I'm very new to the area, only 3 years. But I've always been active, and as soon as I got here, I joined groups in Kingston. I joined the Reading Trail. I joined the Cataract Canoe Club, and I've also been going out to Prince Edward County. But it seems that in order to get any kind of a nice bit of activity, either snowshoeing, skiing, biking in, I have to drive almost an hour. And I have been to the one up by the Strathcona Paper Center as well. But my experience today, I was a group of 3 other ladies. We went to Prince Edward County. This is economic that I'm thinking. And they, one's from Frontenac and two are from Kingston, and myself, I'm from South Shore. So those ladies decided, in order to do the Millennium Trail, that they all got hotel rooms in Prince Edward County, Picton. And we rode the trail, which goes through farmland, and the farmland is all fenced off, and there's interesting things along the way. There's alpacas, you name it, wineries, and where a farm lane goes across the road, they actually have stop signs on the trail for the bikers.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it's an issue that cannot be addressed either with a large, I mean, you go down to 401 through Oshawa, and there's these massive walls of stone or brick that go up. I mean, if it's that close to the farm in question, I'm sure that can be addressed. I think all these issues can be addressed and fenced so that people wouldn't wander on. And I find that in Kingston, in my 3 short years, most of the people the people that were unhoused tended to stay in urban areas. They really didn't wander out. They were down with the river, so they had things that they normally couldn't get, access to the water for bathing, whatever. And they were still there. They didn't go out of town to camp on someone's rail trail. They stayed in town where they could get the things that they wanted and that they needed. But I mean, everything can be addressed and fixed. We shouldn't have to drive long distances to access something that has been recommended to be built in your survey. And I think you bring in a lot of tourism dollars. I mean, today there was hundreds of dollars spent on hotels in Picton from these ladies that wanted a trail. By the way, one of them has been hit by a car on a road on her bike, so she will no longer go on a paved surface with her bicycle. That's in court getting settled. But we also stopped for lunch along the trail. A lot of things are still closed at this time, but we went down one of the laneways towards an area that had been set up as a microbrewery, restaurant, whatever. So there's a lot of money that can be brought in if you make it accessible from an economic viewpoint. You just have to make sure the farmers happy by fencing off their properties and make it interesting along the way as well for people, because I'm sure a lot of little businesses will pop up along that trail once you get it established.
Thanks, thank you, Linda. Any questions or comments from Linda? No, seeing none. We are now up to Aaron Feeny.
Mayor and Council, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'll be quite brief here. My main concern tonight is about the town potentially making a bad trade of Commonwealth. There's been a lot said tonight about potential alternate routes for this trail. I think that's a great idea. If that can be arranged, then there's really no need for anyone to lose here. People's livelihoods and safety can be looked after, the trail can be built, the connection can be made. That said, these alternate routes are going to require a great deal of assessment and preparation before they can be as shovel-ready as the rail bed is. That land's already been compacted, cleared, it's essentially ready to go. The town is currently in full possession of a hard asset that supports a priority item on the master plan that should not be traded for short-term cash and hope. I'm asking you please hold off on selling the line until such time as an alternate route can be guaranteed. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Aaron. Any questions for Aaron? Not seeing none. And Glenn Thompson. Is Glenn still here? Glenn? Where is he? Has he left? Yeah, ma'am, when we started, we were trying not to get into a debate here. This was more just a listen. So if you have any further questions or anything like that, you're more than welcome to send them to us. We'll have an opportunity. We're still going to be taking in information going forward with respect to this. So maybe I can just get you to forward it to us, either forward to me directly or for a clerk, and then we'll get your answer. So, okay? Yeah. Thank you. Glenn, is Glenn here or is Glenn left? I think Glenn may have left. Okay, if not seeing Len, if he does show up, just in case he may went to the little boys room, we'll fit him in afterwards. I'm going to give an opportunity. Tonight's session was really designed for us to listen, and that's what we're doing. So, but I think I may be remiss that I give an opportunity if there's any members of council that wish to speak. I'll give that opportunity. I know it's probably not in our agenda, but I'd like to at least give the opportunity to any members of council who like to say anything. Councilor Martin?
Are you through more people to speak?
No, we're through our deputations, so we're through the lion's share of what we're going to do. So if you would like to speak, I know it's not on our agenda, but I think I'd be remiss if I don't allow you to. So.
You just know some have already and you've offered, I know I get myself in trouble all the time.
Thank you, guys.
There's two sides to this, obviously, and I mean, I have my views. I'm not speaking for council as a whole. I'm going to speak for myself, seeing as how I've been asked to do this. Councilor Shank knows farming inside and out, obviously, but a lot of us have knowledge. My father came here at 14 from England and started farming. I've had uncles who farm. I've got cousins to this day who are farming. I know Robbie and going back 3 generations of his family, and I know the Melvins have invested a fortune over there in their farm as well. Farming is so important to us, but we have to look at it. And then I can add one more thing. Actually, my son is senior policy advisor for the Ministry of Agriculture, so I do have understanding of farmers' views as well. But on council, I also have the greater good of the community to think of, and I've been for the trail system from day one, really, and I'm open. My view is we can do a small section south of the 401 for now, at least get it started, and but retain the rest of the parcel of the land for the future generations. If we can't get it done, we at least need to retain it for future generations. I'll make that clear.
I guess mine's really more of a question. Everybody's talking about this trail. I mean, the two groups have obviously been talking. They're going to work on a trail that's going to suit everybody and make everybody happy, which is great. We are definitely in need of trails. A lot of people refer to the trails that are already going to the north and so on and so forth that go through farmlands. Wonder how many of those trails actually go through a dairy farmland, because it's a big difference between a crop farmer and a dairy farmer as far as biosecurity. Anyways, I would like if the dairy farmers could come back to the next meeting we have and maybe have that number. So that would be great. But I also do believe that great things are going to happen here, and we are going to see some trails. Thank you. Thanks, folks. Thank you.
I could answer Brian's question there.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. We're going to try not to get back and forth here. So if you do have an answer to Brian's question, by all means, please reach out to us and we'll get looked after. And I appreciate you volunteering the information. So if there's nothing else, seeing none, I believe our Madam Clerk will be looking for a motion to note and receive the deputations that we've heard today, both the registered ones and the unregistered ones. Am I correct, Madam Clerk? So we'll look for a resolution to note and receive the deputations as we heard tonight, moved by Deputy Mayor Calvert, seconded by Councilor Canal. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of the motion? Opposed, motion's carried. And just before we wrap things up, folks, we've received a whole pile of information tonight, and it's been good information. And there's a pile of information that we received that
it's going to, if it's not on our website, it will be forwarded to us as well, because we received a ton of correspondence. We've got, I won't say a situation, but we've got something in front of us which has two polarizing and very bona fide concerns. And I have to admit that it was very refreshing to hear from Tom Tussell and Dave Milligan right off the top to say, listen, we want to look for something that will work here, because that's what this community is all about. This community is working together and doing what's best for the community. And I have to say, it made me very proud to be a member of the town of Greater Napanee when I heard that. So thank you, gentlemen, for doing that. I think it's important, and I think we've taken strides a long way forward to make this thing, whether we make it happen or not, that will be what we find out in the future, but I can guarantee you that the council and our staff aren't going to leave stone overturned with respect to this, because we brought it to the forefront. And whether people agree or not agree with how we got here tonight, people are going to call us stupid and for doing what we've done, and then people are going to call us geniuses. But look what we've done. We put this to the forefront. We're now talking in a public forum about something that quite obviously the community wants, and we're going to look at that. And whether that happens this week, next week, the week after, or next year, or next month, we brought it to the forefront. It's not just being kicked around in coffee shops now. It's in the public forum, and I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight, for providing the information that they have, and let's take a look at it. That's all we can do. And I'm very, very, very encouraged by hearing the three words that I heard tonight, which were communication, collaboration, and cooperation. Because in order to make this thing work, we need all three of those things working and moving forward. So thank you, folks, for coming here tonight, and I'll look for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Sorry, we need a bylaw that confirms the proceedings, and I thank Madam Clerk for that. We'll look for a motion for a bylaw. Moved by Councilor Shank, seconded by Councilor Hicks. If there's no further comments or questions, we'll read the first, second, and finally pass. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. And a motion for adjournment. Moved by Councilor Canal, seconded by Councilor Shank. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks, folks. It's been an extremely productive meeting. Thanks again.